Well, I forgot to film an intro for this video, but welcome back to Abandoned Auto. Well, I lied. We're gonna be doing a gas tank. Got a good deal on a gas tank. Benefits of your dad having a pretty similar project truck to you. So he's gonna do something different with his gas tank, and lo and behold, there is a 19-gallon tank for the rear. So the plan is to drop the old tank, get the new tank on. I don't think I'm gonna mess with the side tank because this is dual tanks. I don't think I'm gonna mess with the side tank. Hopefully the switch works because it's got a switch in the cab for front and rear tank. Hopefully that works. If it doesn't, then I may have to mess with the other tank. But we're gonna drop the old tank, get this one in. That way I don't have to do the 12-foot of rubber hose to gas cans and all that mess. I'll just go ahead and put the new tank in, new sending unit and everything, and I won't have to worry about any of that. So let's get a time lapse going. Let's get this old tank out. Let's get the new tank in, and fingers crossed that switch works. Now, a big question is going to be, do I have the key for this? And out of all these keys, this one says fuel. I really need this one off, so we'll try this one first. This is fuel, so hopefully this is the right key. Let's see. Yep. All right, so we've got that one. Let's see if we've got, is it the same key? Because this is the only fuel key I have. So. Oh, there it goes. Yep, that's nice. So I don't have to drill out those caps. All right, so I don't really need to mess with that one. I'm gonna put that one back on, but this is gonna have to come off and all that good stuff. So we're gonna get underneath the truck and go ahead and start dropping the tank. Well, that took like way longer than it should have, but the old tank is out. I've got a new sending unit, so we're not even gonna worry about that. It may not look bad. I mean, it's got surface rust and stuff, but I can assure you, if you look down inside of it, it is full of rust. So we're gonna get these pulled off, put on the new one, that hose as well. And I think I'm gonna reuse my dad's vent grommet and everything, because that plastic is snapped on this one. So we're gonna get the new tank prepped. It's up there, or I guess right there. So we'll get the new tank prepped, new sending unit in, and ready to reverse this process and put it all back in. Go ahead and knock this sending unit out, make sure it's the same as the new one. Jeez, roached. Oh, that smells awful. Well, there's the old sending unit, and that's why we have a new one. Man, let's look down inside this tank. I don't know if you can see. Let me see if I can get my light down there. Oh my goodness. Yep, that's why we are going with the new tank, because that is pretty rough. But that should be the same sending unit, so let's go ahead and put the new one in this tank, get this hose switched over, those hoses switched over, and put the new tank in. All right, got everything switched over. Now it's time to put the new tank in. Well, my phone died before I could get the time lapse, but everything's back in. I'm going to tighten the hanger bolts down. The connection up on the sending unit's taken care of. The only thing that's not connected is the actual fuel line. So I'm going to take compressed air, blow through this line, and it should push all of the junk out all the way to the front. So let's see if we can get that blown out and hook that back up. Okay, now that everything smells like varnished gas, I'll go ahead and hook that back up, and then hook up the fuel pump up front to the tank, and hopefully the switch works for the tanks, and we'll see if I can get fuel to come out of this gas tank. We're gonna run to the gas station, get some gas, and hopefully get that thing running off its own tank. All right, so we've got a little over 9 gallons of gas, pour it in the back tank. Let's see if it'll pick anything up. It is starting to sprinkle a little bit, so I'm trying to rush so I can get out of the rain. All right, we've got about 7 gallons of gas in it, and it's connected, and it says rear tank. That's the switch. So let's see if it'll run off the bowls, but let's see if it picks up from the rear tank. The gauge moved a little bit. 7 gallons should be more than half tank though, or should be right around a half a tank. But we'll see if it runs out of the bowls or if it keeps pulling. Gauge isn't accurate, but it seems to be pulling off the rear tank. Look. You can see it flowing, so it's flowing gas. All right, it's been idling for a few minutes. It's smoothed out quite a bit just from running. The gauge started reading because I put the rest of the gas in it. So we're gonna run up to the gas station. It's like a mile up the road. This will be the maiden voyage for this thing. So what I'm gonna do first though is this front passenger tire is the only one that's got cracks all the way around it. So I'm gonna throw that on the back. They all have good tread, but I'm gonna throw one of the back tires up here just in case something happens that's on a back tire. And then we'll take this back on the road. All right, we've survived our maiden voyage. We're filled all the way up. Passed a cop, scared the crap out of me. But looks like we're getting up to temp. The battery, I'm pretty sure the alternator is probably bad. I don't know. There's actually one way to test that. Let me show you how to test if your alternator is working. All right, if your alternator is working, you can unplug the battery and the vehicle will still be running. So try to unplug this battery and see if it dies. The alternator is working, that's good. So let's plug that back in. That's good. We'll probably need to tighten these connections up because they are pretty loose. So we'll tighten those connections up when we get back to the house. All right, we started to get it pulled to the right. If I let go of the wheel, we're going right really hard. So I'm assuming that the brake hoses need to be done. So probably order some of those, get some brake hoses for the fronts at least, because it pulls hard right. And it's cutting up a little bit, so we're gonna see if I can't tune a little bit of that out of there. But it's cutting up pretty bad. I mean, once you get on it, it smooths out, but I think it's idling a little rough. So we'll go back to the house and see if I can't tune it up a little bit and order some parts. All right, my diagnosis with my dad's help is it idles rough, and once you get into the RPM, it smooths itself out a little bit. Well, on these old Fords, that back there is the EGR. We used some brake clean, sprayed around, and we're determining that that gasket's either bad or the EGR is stuck open, or both. So I'm gonna plug off that EGR, hopefully get rid of most of this vacuum stuff, and go from there, see if that fixes the issue. All right, EGR valves off. There's the old gasket, all gross. New gasket, and we're gonna plug the EGR off. So plug it off, get rid of some vacuum lines. Hopefully that fixes our rough idle. Well, it seems to help a little bit, but upon further inspection, I think this bottom gasket's bad too. Because it's got the EGR spacer, and the one on top of that is what I replaced. And I think the one underneath is bad too. All right, so I went ahead and ordered new brake hoses for this thing, for the fronts. So we're gonna go ahead and take this tire off, get to the brake hose behind it. This is the driver's side. We'll go ahead and do the driver's side. Then we'll do the passenger side. The passenger side is the one that's sticking, but might as well go ahead and do both of them. Not that expensive, and it's safety. So we'll go ahead and do this, and we'll flip the truck around, and we'll go ahead and do the other side as well. All right, tires off, tires off, it's over there. We have enough material for brake pads, so I'm not worried about those, but we are gonna replace this hose. So I'm gonna go get some penetrating oil, and hopefully we can go ahead and just replace that. All right, that's one down. Brake fluid all over the place, but we put it all back together, and this is the old one, all crusty and nasty, but a little bit of trouble, but didn't break off the flare. So we are going to move to the passenger side, which is actually the one that's sticking. So we're gonna try to get that one fixed, but beforehand, it's very important when you're doing anything with brakes to keep your brake fluid topped off. If you get any air in the line, then it'll be an issue. So we did leak a lot out. I got brake fluid over here. I'm gonna go ahead and top it off, and we'll go ahead and flip the truck around so I'm not sitting in the middle of the road working on it, and tackle the passenger side. So here's your master cylinder. As you can see, I've capped the rear brakes, so we only have front brakes, but just hook your screwdriver in there, pull that over. The larger one is for the front, so we're about halfway down. So we'll top that off, keep an eye on it, and work on the passenger side. All right, same story with these pads. These pads have plenty of life left in them, and the rotor's not bad either. So, I mean, it could be better, but it's not terrible. So this is our culprit. Go ahead, hose everything down with some penetrating oil and break this free and replace it. Now, before I chance rounding this off, I'm gonna go see if I have a torch and heat this up. Heat always helps with rust. So I'm gonna go see if I have a torch. If not, then I'm just gonna have to take my chances and let that penetrating oil sit. All right, I found a couple options. We're gonna start with the low heat before I go anything hotter. So let's see if I can get this to break free with some heat.
Yours get somewhat hot, so I don't know, like grease and oil off that thing.
All right, a little bit more penetrating oil. Let's see if we can't break this loose or burn the crap out of myself. We'll see. All right. No give, nothing. Nope, it's just starting to round it off. Let's see. Yeah, it's just starting to round it off. Okay, well, let's move to slightly bigger torch. Kids, don't play with fire. See if that does anything. Man, I bet that sucker's hot. Come on, break loose for me. There we go. Nope, just rounding it off. Come on, man. Work with me. Okay. Of course, the problematic side that I actually need to change isn't working with me. The driver's side was perfectly fine. Which, worst case scenario, I really don't want to do it, but worst case scenario, I just end up cutting it off right above where that flange, or the actual nut is, and reflaring it. I don't want to, because I hate flaring brake lines, but that's what I have to do. I might have to do it. But I'll give it another shot. It's just round at this point. Not working. Which there's a lot of rust on it, I can tell you that. A lot of rust. I can try a pair of vice grips. Oh, there we go. Yeah, that's what we're dealing with. And I took some channel locks to it, and I got it free out of the bottom hole, but now the nut is spinning with the brake line. So that's the second challenge, is if I can get that nut to come loose off the brake line, it'll just suck for the next person that has to do this in 25, 30 years or whatever, but I might still be able to salvage that nut. But if I can't get it to break loose from the brake line, I'm gonna have to reflare it. This might be wishful thinking, but there was a pop. And now it's spinning, so hopefully that means I can reuse that, because I really don't want to have to reflare a brake line. But I'll put you guys back up on the stand and we'll see if that comes off. All right, we now have both brake lines, or brake hoses changed. Next step is to bleed them, but I let them gravity bleed. I don't know if you could tell on the time lapse, but I let them gravity bleed, but I should bleed them. But if the bleeders are stuck, we'll just see how the pedal works. But let's check the bleeders. If they're not stuck, I'll go ahead and crack them open. Yep, the bleeders are stuck. It's just starting to round off. But we'll go ahead and check the brakes to see what the pedal looks like. And I'll put this tire back on, we'll take it around the block and see how the pedal feels. But the main reason why I'm doing this, remember, isn't because the brakes didn't work, it was because this brake, the passenger side brake, was seizing. And that's usually because on a brake line, or a brake hose, if they sit for a long time, they get corroded on the inside, and once you push the pedal down, it holds that pressure. It doesn't release that pressure. I just took it around the block. Brakes still feel the same, like the pedal's still hard, and they still hold, obviously, but there's no seizing on the right side. Whenever I'm driving down the road, it doesn't grab to the right. So Yeah, I think that's pretty good. The next step is going to be changing that gasket, and then I think, other than that, I think I'd be ready to decide what to do next, because I still am planning on trading it. As I'm sitting here videoing this, I am still planning on trading this truck, but I had the time and had the parts, so I went ahead and put the extra effort in to get this truck to where it really should be before I trade it. So let's get that gasket fixed, and hopefully that fixes the rest of this stumbling and the idle. And I'm gonna pull all that EGR crap out of there, plug it all off, and go from there. All right, so we're going to take the air cleaner off, pull the carburetor off, and tackle that bottom gasket and try to eliminate a lot of this. I don't know how well you can see this, but a lot of the vacuum lines. I've already plugged the EGR off, and I really just need to cap all of these vacuum lines, but that bottom of the EGR gasket is leaking. So you've already seen me pull this carburetor off, so we're just gonna skip to the part where the carburetor's off, and I'll show you that gasket. All right, we've got the carburetor pulled off. This is the gasket I'm talking, or the EGR stuff I'm talking about. So we can pull that junk off, hopefully. Looks like somebody's already been down here. Looks like RTV, but we'll see if we can't clean that up a little bit and fix that bottom gasket. This is what I mean by vacuum lines. I mean, that all goes to EGR stuff, EGR. So really, I can plug most of this off. I need my vacuum advance and maybe a couple other vacuum lines, but this is all just emissions junk. So I'm gonna scrape this gasket, because that's all old gasket. I'll scrape that gasket off and see if I can either make a gasket or something, or find a gasket and hopefully fix that leak. All right, we've got the base gasket, or the base cleaned up. I've made a new gasket out of gasket material. I'm gonna go put a thin coat of RTV on both sides of this gasket. I'll put one on the base and then a little bit along this, just so it seals up. I'm not gonna go crazy, it's not red RTV, but we're just gonna do a little bit of gasket sealer to hopefully seal up some of that, because it's pitted and everything else. All right, we've got our thin layer of RTV on both of the pieces. We're gonna put the new gasket on and start putting this all back together. So even though both of these should already be blocked off by the gasket and everything, because I already put a gasket in there, we're gonna go ahead and plug those off just to make sure that this is not a vacuum leak. And while I have the carburetor off, I'm gonna go ahead and take this time to trace all of these vacuum lines and plug them off, and then we'll put the carburetor back on. This is the vacuum mess that I took off. Start plugging stuff, start looping stuff. Like I've already like looped these because I don't have enough plugs, but looped those and looped this. Just all this emissions junk. Went ahead and capped this, capped it to the canister box. So we're gonna keep capping stuff and all that jazz until this is complete. All right, everything's back together. Got all of the stinking emissions junk. This is a small pump. It'll probably end up coming off, but as of right now, I'm gonna leave it. But smog pump is hooked up. If it becomes an issue, I'll take it off. But everything's hooked back up, and let's crank this up and see how it's idling. In the cab. Okay, fire it up. Sounds like it's high idling. Seems to be pretty smooth. It's got a little shake to it, I don't know if you can tell, but it's a whole lot better than it was. So the true test is going to be on the road, See if it stumbles on the road like it was before. All right, we're about to go around the block. Throttle response is good, but we're gonna go around the block, and I'm not gonna video while I'm doing it because I want to be able to drive. But if it starts stumbling, I'll let you guys know. Well, we're back at the house, and it's got a little bit of a stumble. I mean, not even as bad as my F150 stumble. And I think that's just age of the truck. But it drives incredible. The brakes are even a little bit better. I think it's because I did away with a lot of that vacuum stuff. They're still not the best, but for being just front brakes, pretty good. And it's still idling smooth. Great throttle response. Shifts smoothly. This is a good truck. Back under the hood. That's getting hot and has pressure. To the lower radiator hose. Yeah, it's got pressure too. That sounds good. Well, I just went up the road and we're back to starting right again. So the only other thing that could be, in my small knowledge of mechanics, is that caliper sticking. So I may have to get a new passenger caliper because it's pulling hard right. So I'll probably end up getting a new caliper. Yeah, I can smell those brakes and they're smoking just a little bit. So they are definitely dragging. That caliper sticking. So I'll need a new caliper. Before I jump into buying anything else, I'm gonna just go ahead and take this old caliper off and see if I can't press that cylinder back in, maybe put some WD-40 on it and just work it back and forth. Maybe that'll free this caliper up. I don't know how well you can see, but the caliper's off and it is scorching hot. So that's why I'm kind of holding it here, because I don't want it to be hanging from the hose, but I also don't want to put my hand on it because it's freaking hot. So I'm gonna go get a clamp and see if I can't force that cylinder back in the caliper itself. So I got the clamp. These things are lifesavers when you're doing calipers, trying to press stuff back in. Also, you'll have to forgive me for the background noise. My dad's also working on his project truck, so he's using the pressure washer right now. Well, I can't get it to move at all. It's not wanting to go in or out, so it might be time to just replace the caliper. All right, I went ahead and ordered a caliper. It should be here tomorrow morning. But yeah, this one just seems to be stuck. There's nothing I can do to, or everything I've done, I can't get that to move. So I'm gonna clean this up, and then there's only one thing that I can think of that's left to do to this truck. All right, all I can think of that's left besides that caliper is to clean the bed of this out and to pressure wash this thing finally. So we're gonna pressure wash everything. I mean, everything. So I'm gonna set up the camera and do a time lapse. All right, I don't know if you guys can see the difference, but this is where the line is that I stopped. Look at that. Night and day difference. is all cleaned up. Paint's not in the best shape, but it's there. It's cleaner than it was. Only thing I didn't actually spray out was the bed, but it doesn't matter too much. But it's got some hail damage. Oh no, yeah, you can see that. It's got some hail damage, but now you can definitely tell the color of this is almost a gold color. But the amount of times my phone fell over while doing the stinking time lapse because it's so windy. But I'm gonna clean all this stuff up and get back to you when we have that caliper. And I think that should be it. It should be road ready after that. So we're running again, and there's one thing I can think of to do while I'm waiting on the caliper. See my muffler and how it's all rusted out anyway? That's coming up. I usually don't condone straight piping vehicles, but this one's already rusted out, so I'm gonna go ahead and take it off. All right, the muffler's out. It does have cats, so got cat to a straight pipe. Let's hear it. It's got a little bit more of a growl to it. The new caliper came in already, so we're gonna get this on. Hopefully you guys can see fairly well, but we're gonna put a time lapse on, get this new caliper on, and let's hope, which it should, this fixes the seizing problem on the passenger side. Well, the new caliper is installed. I'm gonna go get a flare nut wrench and crack that bleeder. Hopefully we can get some fluid flowing through there. Okay, so basically I've stolen my younger sister and she's gonna help me bleed these brakes. Okay, keep holding. That should be bled. I'm gonna go feel the brake and see what it feels like. Okay, the other side is seized still, the bleeder screw. So I'm gonna put this wheel back on and I'm gonna take it around the block, see if that fixed it. I hope I didn't get any air in the line on the other side because the, like I said, the bleeder screw on that side stuck. I really don't wanna mess with that. I just took it around the block. The pedal feels so much better. It actually feels like the brake booster is working. So I guess all that time I was fighting this passenger side brake caliper. But I guess that's it for this truck. The deal for the trade, I'm still waiting on the guy to respond. But I know I said that this truck was going to be a 1 video truck and it's turned into 2. So I won't say if it'll be in another video or not because I honestly don't know at this point. But it does run, it does drive. Really, I guess the next step is to do all the paperwork and stuff to put it on the road. But other than that, it's doing great. I pressure washed it, it looks decent. And it might just become a little driver while my F100's down. We'll see. Don't forget to check out my Instagram. I'll put it on the screen at abandoned_auto. I post there frequently, not so much on YouTube, but I am trying to become more frequent on YouTube. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, share with your friends, leave a comment down below. Maybe if you want to see something specific with this truck, let me know in the comments. And I guess that's going to do it for this video. Check out the other videos over here, and I'll see you next time on Abandoned Auto.